Bonnie and Clyde. May 23, 1934. A stolen Ford V8 speeds down a quiet road in rural Louisiana. Inside, Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow, two lovers who'd spent 2 years robbing their way across America, becoming the most wanted criminals of the Great Depression. But this morning, they weren't running. They were being hunted. 6 lawmen had spent months tracking their every move, studying their habits, learning exactly where they'd go next. Now they waited, hidden behind trees along Highway 154. At 9:15 a.m., the car appeared. Before Clyde could even react, all 6 men opened fire at once. No warning, no order to surrender, just gunfire that didn't stop until every magazine was empty. 16 seconds, that's all it took. The car was hit over 1,000 times. Bonnie and Clyde never got the chance to surrender, or even draw a weapon. They were gone before they even understood what was happening. Al Capone. You'd expect the king of Chicago's underworld to die in a blaze of bullets. He didn't. By 1947, Al Capone, the man who once ran an empire of speakeasies and made millions from bootlegging, was a shell of himself. His mind had been quietly destroyed for decades by untreated syphilis, a disease that slowly ate away at his brain. Penicillin simply didn't exist when he needed it most. By the mid-1940s, his mental state had collapsed to that of a 12-year-old child. On January 25, 1947, his body finally gave out. A stroke, followed by cardiac arrest. No bullets, no shootout. Just a slow, quiet ending in his own bed, surrounded by family who watched the empire builder fade into confusion. Bugsy Siegel. June 20th, 1947. Bugsy Siegel is relaxing on a sofa in his girlfriend's Beverly Hills mansion, reading the newspaper. He has no idea a contract has already been placed on his life. He'd poured millions into building the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas, but his partners suspected he'd been skimming construction funds for himself. They'd grown tired of his lifestyle, tired of his excuses. They wanted him gone. At 10:45 p.m., a gunman crept through the darkness outside, raised an M1 carbine, and fired 9 shots through the window. One bullet struck Siegel directly across the bridge of his nose. With such brutal force, it blew his eye clean out of its socket. Investigators later found it 15 feet away, completely intact. Siegel died instantly. And within minutes, mobsters back east had already seized control of his casino, before his body had even gone cold. Dutch Schultz. October 23, 1935. Dutch Schultz is dining quietly with his men in a private backroom in Newark. He has no idea the mob's ruling council has already marked him for death. He'd become too reckless, too dangerous to keep alive. 2 hitmen walked in. One caught him alone in the restroom and shot him point blank in the abdomen. The other turned his gun on the men still seated at the table. Schultz collapsed, but he didn't die right away. For the next 22 hours, he lay in a hospital bed with a fever climbing past 106 degrees, rambling in strange, disjointed riddles, while detectives sat at his bedside, hoping he'd whisper the name of his killer. He never did. He muttered fragments of childhood memories, bizarre poetry that made no sense to anyone in the room, and died without revealing a single useful word. Historians still study that strange transcript today, searching for a hidden meaning he took to his grave. Sam Giancana. June 19, 1975. Sam Giancana, once the iron-fisted boss of the Chicago outfit, is alone in his basement kitchen, frying sausages and peppers, his guard completely down. Someone he trusted walks into the house. As Giancana stood at the stove with his back turned, the visitor raised a pistol and shot him in the back of the head. He dropped instantly, but the killer wasn't finished. Standing over the body, he fired 6 more shots into his face and neck. When police arrived, they found something chilling. The sausages were still on the stove, barely cooked. The attack had happened almost the moment he turned his back, meaning he trusted his killer enough to never even glance over his shoulder. His murder was never solved. Carmine Galante. July 12, 1979. Carmine Galante is enjoying lunch on a restaurant's enclosed patio in Brooklyn, a cigar clenched between his teeth, just like always. His aggressive push into New York's drug trade had made him powerful enemies. 3 masked men burst onto the patio, carrying shotguns, and opened fire without warning. Galante was gone instantly. When police arrived, they found his body lying near the table, and somehow, his cigar was still clenched tightly between his teeth. That single image became one of the most iconic crime photographs in American history, splashed across the front page the very next morning. Paul Castellano, December 16, 1985. Rush hour in Manhattan. Christmas shoppers crowd every sidewalk. Paul Castellano steps out of his car for dinner at a steakhouse and never makes it through the door. Men in trench coats emerge from the crowd, draw handguns, and open fire in broad daylight. Castellano and his driver are killed instantly as pedestrians scatter in panic. Across the street, a rival sits quietly in a parked car, watching it all unfold exactly as he'd planned. He'd chosen this spot deliberately, packed with witnesses, lit up for the holidays, to send a message. Within days, he'd seized control of the entire family. Tony Spilotro, June 14, 1986. Tony Spilotro is told he's getting a promotion. He and his brother drive to a house in Indiana, expecting good news. Instead, it's an ambush. In the basement, multiple men beat both brothers savagely, not with weapons, just fists and feet, in a brutal, sustained attack. Their bodies are driven to a cornfield and buried, the killers certain they'd never be found. 5 days later, a farmer stumbles onto the shallow graves, but the autopsy reveals something far more horrifying than anyone expected. Sand was found inside Tony Spilotro's lungs. He had still been breathing when he was buried alive, suffocating slowly in the dirt. In this world, there was no retirement, no peaceful ending, just a matter of time. If you enjoyed this, subscribe for more stories like this, and drop your suggestions for the next video in the comments.